Namo Buddhaya, Jai Bhim, and welcome to our Dhamma discussion today. Before I start the Dhamma discussion, I always make a few points. To start with, we observe Panchasila and then meditate for 5 minutes. And then I will deliver the Dhamma sermon for about 50 minutes. And then I'll give you 2 hours to ask any questions. Today, in fact, I can give you more than 2 hours because tomorrow morning I do not have a Dhamma discussion. So in this series, we are discussing the path to Sotapanna, the first level of enlightenment. And to explain the path to Sotapanna, I am mainly using Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra and the Sotapanna Sutra. As you all know, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra was the first sutra that Lord Buddha delivered to the Panchavagya Bhikkhu after attaining Buddhahood. Apart from those 2 sutras, I'm also taking information from the Cuta Sutra, then Dvedhavitakka Sutra, Vitakkasanthana Sutra, and the Ratana Sutra. All these sutras I have taken from the oldest Tipitaka in the world, which is kept at the British Library in London. I explained to you how that Tipitaka came to London. If someone missed that story and if they want to know, please do ask me during question time, and I don't mind explaining again. In fact, make the question time as useful as possible. Ask as many questions as possible. And today I can give you more than 2 hours. This Tipitaka has been written down in Sri Lanka at Alulena Rajamahavihara in Sri Lanka, 456 years after Lord Buddha passed away. And that's over 2,100 years old. And as far as I know, this is the oldest Tipitaka that is available in the world. It is written using the Sinhala alphabet, the same alphabet that we use today. But there are certain differences. Today we read words, we write words. In other words, we have a gap between 2 words. And those days they used to write lines. One line is about 1 foot long, because they used to read lines, that way they can read faster. The Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra is written on gold leaves. So it looks as new and it's easier to read than all the other sutras. Now, I have noticed major differences between these sutras. The details that have been given in the other Tripitakas that I have read, and in this old Tipitaka kept at the British Library. For example, there are 3 other Tripitakas I have read before, and one is the what we call Buddha Jayanti Tipitaka in Sri Lanka. That's Pali Sinhala Tipitaka, they call it. And that was written down for Buddha Jayanti in 1956. So that is now 65 years old. And then recently in the 90s, another Tipitaka was written down by a monk called Kiribaggoda Jnanananda Thero. So they have 2 Tripitakas in Sri Lanka, Pali and Sinhala. And also, I have read the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra in those 2 Tripitakas. And also the English translation by Bhikkhu Bodhi and Bhikkhu Jnana Bodhi. In all these Tripitakas, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra is given in less than 4 pages. As a matter of fact, it's only 3 pages. And whereas the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra that's given in the Tipitaka, the old Tipitaka kept at the British Library, that's 48 pages. Yes, it's a fact that the pages are smaller. So if you take 2 pages will be equivalent to 1 page in the new Tripitakas. 2 pages in the old Tipitaka is equivalent to 1 page in the new Tipitaka. When we say 1 page in the new Tipitaka, that's one-sided page, whereas in the old Tipitaka, 1 page is two-sided. So in fact, when I say 2 pages, if we count the way that we count now, that is 4 pages. So 4 pages will be equivalent to 1 page in the new Tripitaka. 4 pages in the old Tripitaka is equivalent to 1 page in the new Tripitaka, you can say roughly. But still, if you divide the old Tripitaka by 4, still it comes to 12 pages. Whereas this, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra in the other 3 new Tripitakas, which were written down during the last 65 years, that's only 3 pages compared to 12 pages in the old Tripitaka. 48 pages you can reduce to 12 pages to make it equivalent for the page size of the page of the new Tripitaka. So imagine there's a huge difference between 3 pages and 12 pages. So as a result of that, the information, the Dhamma points that I'm explaining to you might differ from what you have learned already. If that is the case, please don't develop anger, resentment, or arguments against it. Just practice the principle that Lord Buddha explained in Kalama Sutra. In Kalama Sutra, Lord Buddha said, don't either believe or disbelieve me. Just take this, listen to me carefully, take this all from information in, take it home, go through it, analyze it, revise it, go through it over and over again. And at the end of the day, if you think that it's correct, you can take it, make use of it, and you will have results quickly. Whereas on the other hand, if you think it's wrong, just leave it out and carry on with whatever you were doing before, but don't develop anger, resentment, or arguments against what I am saying. So I make the same request from you, all of you. Right, so now we shall start. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, in this series of Dhamma discussions, as I explained earlier, we are discussing the path to Sotapanna. Before I start the Dhamma sermon, I'll quickly, in 5 minutes, try and recap what we discussed so far. Now, firstly, we discussed the Cuta Sutra. In the Cuta Sutra, the main points are that Lord Buddha said what happens to a person when a person dies. By the time he dies, if he has attained Arahathood, he will go to Nibbana. If he has attained Anagamihood, he will go to a Suddhavasa Brahmaloka, a good Brahmaloka. And if he's either Sotapanna or Sakuddhagami, he will go to a good Divyaloka. Then if he has been practicing wrong meditation techniques and has made this mind asanya, blank, then he will go to a bad Brahmaloka, spend some time there, and then from there, indirectly, he will fall into the 4 hells. On the other hand, if a person has been practicing a lot of meritorious deeds and keep asking for comforts in life, he will go to a bad Divyaloka where he will have all the comforts in the world, luxuries in the world. He will enjoy life until his merits run out. Once the merits run out, he'll be left with the sins. And in order to pay for sins, he will fall into the 4 hells. So those bad Brahmaloka and bad Divyaloka are an indirect route to the 4 hells. Then we are left with people who have been following the Sotapanna Marga, but they were not able to become Sotapanna due to various reasons. And if that person, at the moment of death, the final thought that he gets, what we call Chuttasita, if it is an unwholesome thought, he will end up in the 4 hells. If it is a wholesome thought, he will get the opportunity to come back to the human world again. And the rest of the people who make more than 99% of the total population, and they will go straight to the four hells because they have neither become Sotapanna nor being in the Sotapanna Marga. We will explain the reasons why it happens as we go on through the Dhamma discussions. Then I started with Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. In Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, first we discussed the summary. In the summary, Lord Buddha says, Pubbyanusutesu Dhammesu, which means I'm going to explain you Dhamma you haven't heard before. Then he says, Chakkung Udapadi, Jnanang Udapadi, Panya Udapadi, Vicca Udapadi, Aloko Udapadi. That means I got the vision of Dhamma, I got the knowledge of Dhamma, I got the wisdom of Dhamma, I got the science of Dhamma, and I got the light of Dhamma. I became Loka from Aloka. Then he says, in order to understand this Dhamma, you have to come out of Kama Sukallikana Yoga, Kama Attakilamatana Yoga, and you have to come to Majjhima Patipada. Kama Sukallikana Yoga is living a life of luxury, enjoying things which are not necessary for living, not basic necessities. Attakilamatana Yoga is the other extreme, giving unnecessary suffering to the body. Majjhima Patipada is the path that helps you to eradicate Raga Dvesha Moha. Then Lord Buddha said the Majjhima Patipada is the Noble Eightfold Path. Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanti, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. Then he says that in order to come to Samma Ditti and become Sotapanna, you have to first comprehend the Four Noble Truths. Noble truth of suffering, noble truth of reason for suffering, noble truth of out of suffering, and the noble truth of the way out of suffering. Then he says that in order to comprehend the Four Noble Truths, there are four things that you have to do, and they are Kalyana Mitra Sevana, Sirisaddharma Shravana, Yoniso Manasikara, Dhammanudhamma Patipada. We discussed all that. Now, then we briefly discussed all that. Then I started to explain each Dhamma point in detail. And the point that where we stopped is in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, Noble Truth of Suffering. We discussed 11 types of suffering there. That is Jati pi dukkha, Jara pi dukkha, Vyadhi pi dukkha, Maranam pi dukkha, Soka parideva dukkha, Domanassa upayasa pi dukkha, Pi yehi vipayogo dukkha, Appi yehi sampayogo dukkha. We discussed that in detail. If anyone has any questions on these things that we have discussed so far, excuse me, please do question me during the question time. You will have plenty of time today. You can ask plenty of questions. Then Lord Buddha said, Yampi ichang nalabati tampi dukkhang. If you like something and if you're attached to it and if you can't get it, you will feel sad and you'll be suffering. So all these 11 types of suffering, as well as all the other various types of suffering, has this particular quality, Yampi ichang nalabati tampi dukkhang. That means if you like something, if you are attached to it mentally with Raga Dvesha Moha, and if you can't get it, you like to have it all the time, the way you want, but if you can't get it, that will cause you suffering. Right. So on these things, if you have any questions, please do question me. Then we went on to discuss the most important area, Sankittena Pancha Upadana Skandha Dukkha. Sankittena, Sang is Raga Dvesha Moha. Anything that you are doing with the construction of a thought with Raga Dvesha Moha is Sang. We use the word Sang for any action that we take, a verb or action that we take with the thought that is made up of Raga Dvesha Moha. That is called Sang. So Sankittena Pancha Upadana Skandha Dukkha. So Pancha Skandha is Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, which is made up of Sang, Raga, Dvesha, Moha. If the Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana is made up of raga, dvesha, moha, then it becomes pancha upadana skandha. Upadana skandha means pancha skandha is there for everyone, rupa, vedana, sanya, even arahat person gets sanya. And when the sanya comes, the pruthakjana person will do a sankara and create vijnana, and the arahat person will do visankara, and he will create or produce prajna, which is necessary to understand or comprehend Dhamma. So that's where we stopped, and we have to discuss this in more detail and try and comprehend this Panchaskandha and Panchopadana Skandha. In the Sotapanna Sutra, which is a very short sutra, it's about half a page, in that all Lord Buddha has explained is how this Panchopadana Skandha works. Now let's start from the beginning, this Panchopadana Skandha. I know we discussed it to a certain extent, but let's discuss it in more detail. Now, Panchaskandha is Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Now, Rupa is, in English they say forms, but I don't like to use those English words because they are misleading. Let's stick to these Pali words or Magadhi words. Now, Rupa means anything. Now, anything where we have 6 senses: our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. Anything that these 6 senses can see or feel is called Rupa. For example, anything that the eye can see, any form that the eye can see is called Rupa Rupa. Lord Buddha called them Rupa Rupa. Then any sound that our ear can hear, Lord Buddha called it Shabda Rupa. Then any smell that our nose can feel, that is called Gandha Rupa. Then any taste that our tongue can taste or feel, that's called Rasa Rupa. Anything that our body can feel, that is called Pottabha Rupa. And anything that comes to our mind from our past memories, that is called Dhamma Rupa. Now there's another word for it. When I say Dhamma Rupa, that is slightly misleading. I don't like to use that word. It's called, let me think, it's not coming to my mind right now. Let's use the word Dhamma Rupa. So these 6 types of rupas, it's called Mano Rupa, because it's coming from the past memories. So we have our eyes, we have Rupa Rupa, we have Shabda Rupa, we have Gandha Rupa, we have Rasa Rupa, we have Pottabha Rupa, and we have Mano Rupa. Mano Rupa is are the forms that comes to our mind, or pictures, if you like, that comes to our mind, or data that comes to our mind from our past memories. Our mind works like a central processing unit in a computer. As a matter of fact, the computer has been made, or it has been found or discovered on the basis of how Lord Buddha explained how our mind works. Our mind is the central processing unit, and there are 6 entry points that sends data to our mind. The 6 entry points are our 6 senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. So when the data comes to our mind, now the data, Lord Buddha called it Rupa. Now let's take the eye. Anything that the eye can see, Lord Buddha called it Rupa Rupa. So Rupa, all the eye can do is, eye cannot identify what it is. All it can do is whatever it sees, it can send the picture to our mind. It's like, let's say, an electronic reader or a keyboard. When we key in some data into the computer, the keyboard cannot identify what the data is. All it's doing is, or an electronic reader, all it's doing is sending that data to the central processing unit. Similarly, what our eye will do, eye or the ear or the tongue or the body or the mind or whatever, the 6 senses, all it will do is send that data to our mind, which is the central processing unit. So when it comes to the mind, mind gets a feeling that's called Vedana, Rupa Vedana. Then the third one is Sanya. Sanya means identification. Mind will identify the piece of data that came there, whether it's a person or an object. If it is a person, who is that? If it is an object, what color is it? And so on. It will identify it. So Rupa Vedana Sanya, where every person will have these three, Rupa Vedana Sanya. It happens automatically without our knowledge. And throughout the day, while we are awake, we keep sending Rupa Vedana Sanya into our mind, which is the central processing unit. Even when we are in sleep, we keep dreaming. Sometimes that is, the dreams are the data that's coming to our mind from our past memories. Some of the past memories we can't remember. As a matter of fact, Lord Buddha has said, now last time I explained you about those 6 boxes. The 5th box contains the past memories of Lord Buddha said 91 eons. A eon is a very, very long period, which is not countable. So it's a very, very long period, trillion times trillions of years, you could say. And 91 eons, what we have done, what we have learned, what we have spoken, everything that we did, all the past memories are stored there in that past memories box. So it's just that we don't have the retrieving power to retrieve them. As and we go through the path to Nibbana, and our wisdom will improve. And when the wisdom improves, we will be able to retrieve more and more information. So while we are in sleep, sometimes we get information from these past memories. Sometimes when we wake up, we keep wondering, where did this thought come from? I have never thought of it before, but we can't remember. We have had that thought somewhere in the samsara, maybe 1,000 years ago, maybe 10,000 years ago. For various reasons, they keep coming back to our mind when we are in sleep. It could be something that happened yesterday or today. It could be something happened 10,000 lives ago or 10,000 years ago. And that data comes in and our mind start processing it and producing information. So the Pruthagjana person is a person who has not comprehended Dhamma and not come to Sammaditya and not Sotapanna. So the Pruthagjana person doesn't know these things. When Rupa Vedana Sanya comes to his mind, always he will do a Sankara. Now here you get the word Sang. Sang means something to do with Raga, Desha, Moha. Kara is action. Any action that you take mentally, physically, or verbally is called Kara. So Sankara is you are doing something mentally, physically, or verbally with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. So the Pruthagjana person, what he does is when the Rupa Vedana Sanya comes to his mind, he will process that with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Now the processing power to process information that comes to the central processing unit of a computer needs a program. So here, as far as our mind is concerned, I keep comparing that to a central processing unit because that way people can understand it better. So when the information comes to our mind, which is the central processing unit of our system, it has 2 programs that are available to it. One program is called Vijnana, the other one is called Prajna. So a person, a Pruthagjana person, who has not comprehended Dhamma and who has not become Sotapanna, his Vijnana power, Vijnana, Vijnana is the energy that is produced by our unwholesome qualities. Unwholesome qualities, we talked about it when I was explaining this principle with boxes. I said, if you remember, The first box contains the wholesome qualities that we have accumulated throughout our samsara, and the second box contains all the merits that we have accumulated throughout our samsara and yet to be used. And the third box contains the unwholesome qualities that we have accumulated throughout our samsara. And the fourth box contains the sins that we have accumulated throughout our samsara. And the fifth box contains the past memories. And the sixth box contains something called Uppatti Bija. Don't worry about it at this level. And there are many other boxes, but we only have to, we are only concerned with these 6 boxes at this stage. Don't worry about the rest. So here, what happens is, what is Vijnana program? Vijnana program is when we have accumulated unwholesome qualities. Unwholesome qualities are raga quality, dvesha quality, and the moha quality. And it works like a battery. Let's say these 3 ingredients are in a battery. Imagine a battery, a car battery or whatever, and that battery produces an energy. Similarly, here, this Vijnana, the unwholesome qualities battery produces an energy called Vijnana. And that Vijnana does many things. One of the things that it does is it can process the data that comes into our mind, and it will always process with raga, dvesha, moha, because it is a raga, dvesha, moha energy, negative energy, that's in the Vijnana. So Pruthagjana person's unwholesome qualities, raga quality, dvesha quality, moha quality, are stronger than the wholesome qualities. So his Vijnana power, the negative energy, is stronger than the prajna, the positive energy that is produced from the wholesome qualities. So every time when a piece of data comes into his mind, Rupa Vedana Sanya comes to his mind, he is always used to processing that with the Vijnana program. So when you process data with Vijnana program, then you will produce more and more raga, dvesha, moha. You will strengthen your raga, dvesha, moha qualities. In turn, that will strengthen the Vijnana, and that is the vicious circle that person cannot get out of. So the average person who does not know Buddha Dhamma, who has not comprehended Buddha Dhamma, he will keep all day long, he will be, now Lord Buddha said an average person will get 30,000 thoughts on average in a day. So 30,000 thoughts, when these thoughts come to his mind, in other words, before constructing a thought, he will get a piece of data, Rupa Vedana Sanya, coming to his mind, and he'll be processing that with that Vijnana program, the negative energy, and keep producing more and more raga, dvesha, moha. In turn, it will strengthen the unwholesome qualities, raga quality, dvesha quality, moha quality, in that third box. And in turn, that will strengthen the Vijnana power. That's the vicious cycle that person cannot get out of. And as long as the Vijnana power is there in our Chittasanthana, which is in our astral body, the Manomaya Kaya, which travels after our death, as long as the Vijnana power is there, it will go somewhere else and create another Nama Rupa, in other words, another body somewhere. That's why in the Paticcasamuppada Dhamma, Lord Buddha said, Avijja Pachya Sankara. Avijja means not knowing the not knowing the 4 noble truths. Vijja is knowing the 4 noble truths. Avijja is not knowing the 4 noble truths. So Avijja Pachya Sankara, because a person doesn't know the 4 noble truths, he will do Sankara, the Sankara that we are talking of. He will think, he will construct thoughts with raga, dvesha, moha, then put them into action, verbally, physically, or mentally, with raga, dvesha, moha. So whether he will put it into action with words or physically, he'll be constructing a thought with raga, dvesha, moha that will strengthen his raga, desha, moha qualities. So avijja pachya sankara. Because of not knowing the Four Noble Truths, he will do sankara. Sankara is constructing thoughts with raga, desha, moha. Then sankara pachya vijnana. When you produce sankara, in turn it produces vijnana. Because sankara is doing something with raga, desha, moha. When you do that, you are strengthening your unwholesome qualities, and those unwholesome qualities will strengthen vijnana. So avidya pachya sankara, sankara pachya vijnana. When you do sankara, you keep producing more vijnana. And vijnana pachya nama rupa. Vijnana is the energy that produces or that creates nama rupa. Nama is the six senses, the eyes, ears, nose, body, tongue, and the mind. So any living being will have this nama rupa. So as long as the vijnana power is there, in other words, as long as we have unwholesome qualities, raga quality, dvesha quality, moha quality, in that third box, that will produce this negative energy called vijnana. As long as vijnana is there, it will produce nama rupa. It will keep producing nama rupa in this samsara. In other words, that will continue. It's the vijnana negative energy that continues this process of birth and rebirth. So if we can get rid of vijnana, if we can stop doing sankara, then we will stop strengthening the raga quality, dvesha quality, moha quality, and then we will gradually reduce the strength of vijnana. And eventually, if we can get rid of it, and then we can become arahat and stop producing nama rupa altogether. And that will be the end of our birth and rebirth cycle in this 31 planes, which gives us suffering. And then our manomaya kaya, our astral body, can go to this wonderful place called Nibbana. That's why Lord Buddha said, Sabbe sankara anicchati yada panyaya pasyati ata nibbindati dukke esamaggo visuddhya. Sabbe sankara anicchati. All sankara anicchai, anicchade. Anything that is anicca is dukkha anattai. Sabbe sankara anicchati. All sankara anicchai, dukkha anattai. Anicca means we cannot keep it the way we want. It keeps changing. And because of that, if we are attached to it mentally with raga, desha, moha, it will give us suffering. And so anicca, dukkha is suffering. Anatta means it will desert us in this samsara, in the birth of cycle and rebirth, and give us more and more suffering. If we are deserted in this samsara, that means the time that we are spending in these 31 planes, more than 90% of the time we have to spend in the four hells. That's where the immense suffering that we have to undergo. Lord Buddha has explained this in several sutras. That's why he said this, the continuation of birth and rebirth in this cycle, what he calls samsara, is suffering. Because if a person is stuck in samsara, he will be spending most of his time in the four hells where there is immense suffering. Very rarely we get the opportunity to have a human life. And that's what Lord Buddha said, Manusatta patilabo parama dullabo. So becoming a human being is very, very rare. And once we got that opportunity, we must make full use of it and at least become Sotapanna, so that we will not go to the four hells for the rest of our samsara. Sabbe sankara anicchati, all sankara anicchai, dukkha anattai. Anicca, dukkha, anatta we will discuss today. And then yada panyaya pasyati. If you can see this with your panya, with your wisdom, using your wisdom and intelligence, if you can understand that, comprehend this, ata nibbindati dukke. if you can stop doing this, if you can keep away from doing Sankara, stop doing Sankara altogether, Esamango Visuddhya, that is the path to Nibbana. So the same thing Lord Buddha explained in Sabbapapasakaranang Kusalasuppasampada Sachitta Pariyodapanang Etang Buddha Anusasanang. The same thing he's explaining in different words. Sabbapapasakaranang. Eradicate all unwholesome thoughts, unwholesome action, and unwholesome qualities. Sabbapapasakaranang Kusalasuppasampada. Cultivate, practice, cultivate, develop wholesome thoughts, wholesome qualities, and wholesome deeds. Kusalasuppasampada. Sachitta Pariyodapanang. Chitta means the mind. Sachitta Pariyodapanang means purify your mind through this process. Etang Buddha Anusasanang means this is the advice given by every Sammasambuddha. It's the same thing what we explained in the previous poem. Here he is explaining it another way. The same thing he has explained in another poem, which says, which you hear in funeral houses. When you go to a funeral, a Buddhist monks will come and chant this. Actually, people think that this chanting this poem or this gatha has something to do with the dead person, and it will do something good for the dead person. It cannot do anything good for the dead person because he's already dead. And it is for the people who are living to understand what life is all about. And it says, Anicca vata sankara uppad vayadammino uppajjitva nirujjanti te sang upasamosuko. Te sang means the three sang, raga, dvesha, moha. Anicca vata sankara. All sankara anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca vata sankara uppad vayadammino. They will be born, they will originate, they will remain for a short time, and then they will disappear. They will be born, they will stay, they will die. Uppada vayadammino. Uppajjitva nirujjanti. If you can eradicate them as and when they appear, when they are born, uppajjitva nirujjanti, te sang upasamosuko. Te sang means the three sang, raga, dvesha, moha. That is the way to eradicate raga, dvesha, moha. So the whole process is about eradicating raga, dvesha, moha completely and developing maitri, karuna, mudita, upekka, the wholesome qualities to the highest possible level. That way, our wisdom will develop to the highest possible level, and that will help us to understand these universal laws which Lord Buddha called Swa Aswadasa Dhammaskandha, out of which the most important ones are the Four Noble Truths. Going back to Sankara, people, the Pruthajjana person, always when Rupa Vedana Sanya comes to his mind, he will do a Sankara and produces Vijnana. He doesn't know what he is doing. But why he is doing Sankara? Because doing Sankara has a mentally fabricated pleasure called Aswada. Let's take some examples and see. So Aswada is a mentally fabricated pleasure. The Pruthajjana person does Sankara because of that Aswada. He's used to enjoying this Aswada. He lives to enjoy Aswada. So he doesn't know the outcome of it. When you do Aswada, the Lord Buddha said, it has a big downfall called Adhinava. Adhinava means a big downfall. The downfall is that Aswada has this nature called Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta. We will discuss Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta in more detail. So let's try and understand what is Aswada, why we call it a mentally fabricated pleasure. So the Pruthajjana person lives his life to enjoy these mentally fabricated pleasures. They think that they are real pleasures. He doesn't know Dhamma, but they are not real pleasures. They are mentally fabricated pleasures. Let's take a few examples and try and understand why we call them mentally fabricated pleasures. Now, let's say, for an example, there's a young couple in UK, English couple, who are running a small business, and they are importing things from, let's say, Philippines. And the company that is in Philippines is also run by a young couple. After some time, they become friendly, and the couple in Philippines invite the couple in UK to come on a holiday. So they go on holiday and to Philippines, and on the first night, the couple in Philippines take them to dinner at a very, very expensive restaurant in Manila. Now, some of you have gone to Manila, I think, the capital of Philippines. So they take them to one of the poshest and the most expensive restaurants in Manila. And the menu comes, and the items in the menu are in words that the English couple does not understand, do not understand. So they say to the Philippine couple, order whatever you are going to have, we will have the same thing. So the English couple realized that it's a very, very expensive hotel, and they are middle-class people in UK, and they have never been to such expensive restaurants in UK. So this is probably the most expensive restaurant in Manila, and dinner for one person costs $1,000 US. There are places like that. So the Filipino couple orders for the English couple as well. Then the food comes in after some time, and they start eating it, and the English couple enjoy it very much. So do the Filipino couple. All four enjoy the food very much. And then after having dessert and all that, they were just having a casual conversation, and suddenly the Englishman asked the Filipino man, what was that meat? Then the Filipino man says, it's our, most delicious dish, that's dog meat. So English couple didn't know that they ate dog meat. They are dog lovers. In fact, they don't have children. They have 4 dogs at home. And they can't imagine eating dog meat. So the moment they heard the word dog meat, both of them started running towards the washroom. And the Filipino couple was puzzled. They were wondering what's happening. They were so happy a few minutes ago. They enjoyed the food very much. Why are they running to the washroom? So the Filipino man followed the couple to see both of them were vomiting. The English couple was vomiting. He couldn't understand why. What was the reason? You see, now the English couple didn't know what the meat was. They enjoyed it. So the taste was good. They didn't know what it was. And they developed a raga towards it. They got attached to it with greed and desire, and they enjoyed it. But they didn't know what the meat was. But after eating it, after enjoying it, when they heard that it was a dog meat, because they cannot imagine eating dog meat, they have a resentment towards people who eat dog meat or eating dog meat. They hate it. They don't like it. They have a resentment. Suddenly, that thought comes up. The raga thought that they had, the greed and the desire for that meat dish, became a resentment and hate. And they got angry. And that's why they started vomiting. So it's the same dog meat. When they were attached to that with raga, dvesha, moha, they enjoyed it so much. But suddenly, their mental condition changed because they found out that the meat was dog meat, and then the mental condition that they have towards it changed, and the condition became, the attachment with raga became attachment with dvesha, and they started vomiting it. So it's the same meat. First they enjoyed it, secondly they hated it. Why? Because first they developed a raga towards it, they were attached to it with raga, they had a great pleasure. So that pleasure is not an actual pleasure. That's a mentally fabricated pleasure due to attachment with raga. On the other hand, once they found out when that's dog meat, they started vomiting. They developed anger, resentment, hate against it, and started vomiting and developed a negative aswada. So first time they enjoyed it, it's a mentally fabricated pleasure. Aswada, the second time once they found out what it is, it's the same meat, same taste, same place they ate, but now they are hating it because their attachment towards it changed from raga to dvesha. You see? So this, the pleasure that we enjoy, what we call pleasure, people think it's a real pleasure. Actually, it's not a real pleasure. It's a mentally fabricated pleasure or mentally created pleasure as a result of developing an attachment with raga, with something or someone. So that's one example. Let me give you another example. Let's say a father has a son, and son is very obedient, very studious. He does everything what the father says, and father loves him very much. And father is attached to him with raga. So father's love towards that son is conditional. It's conditional on what the son does. As long as the son does what the father wants, he is happy and he loves the son very much, and it gives him happiness and pleasure. But the moment, let's say, son became 18 and he doesn't listen to the father anymore, he has changed completely, and he is doing everything that the father doesn't like or father doesn't want him to do, then the father's love becomes a hate. Father starts to hate the child. So it's the same child. What changed was the mental condition. Earlier, every time when he sees the child, when he thinks about the child, he feels happy, he was enjoying it. But that enjoyment, he did not know that is subject to conditions. The conditions were that he was attached to the son with raga, with greed and with a desire, because he did not know Dhamma. Then the moment that son started doing things that the father does not like or father did not like, then what happens was father started hating the son because his attachment with raga changed to attachment with dvesha. So that mentally fabricated pleasure, the aswada that he got, was not there anymore. It becomes a negative aswada. So this, what we call pleasure, what we enjoy, what people live to do to satisfy these six senses and enjoy, is not actually a real pleasure. It's a mentally fabricated pleasure. Now, when people enjoy, there's another point one has to learn and understand. When we enjoy, it's not the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the body that enjoys it. It's the mind that enjoys it. Mind creates a thought based on attached to that with raga or dvesha. And if you're attached to it with raga, mind will start creating mentally fabricated pleasures and enjoy it. Now, it's the mind that enjoys and not the body. Let me give you an example. When a person undergoes an operation, firstly, the anesthetist will come and give him anesthesia. And what happens is when he's under anesthesia, his mind is separated from the body. In other words, mind does not feel what's happening in the body. So the body could be sending Rupa Vedana Sanya, but the central processing is not receiving this data. So mind does not feel. So once the anesthesia is given, the mind does not feel anything about the body. So the surgeon will come and cut him up, do whatever he has to do, and stitch up and put him back together. And the mind will not feel a thing because mind has been separated from the body. The body cannot feel anything. Body can only send messages to the mind. It's the mind that feels pain or pleasure or whatever. the feeling that feels, it's the mind that feels it, and not the six senses, or the five senses rather, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the body. So the anesthetist, once the operation is completed, anesthetist will come and bring him back to consciousness, and in other words, puts his mind in contact with the body again. Then the mind will start feeling the pain, because once it's connected to the body, the body will be sending messages to the mind, and mind will feel the pain in the stomach or wherever the operation has been performed. So try and understand that when we enjoy or when we suffer, it's not the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the body that enjoys or suffers, it's the mind. So everything that Lord Buddha has explained to do with the mind, and mainly the unwholesome qualities, raga, dvesha, moha, that we carry in our Chittasanthana in the mind, and also in the Chittasanthana in the astral body, as well as the wholesome qualities, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeka, which also we carry in one of the boxes in our Chittasanthana, which is in the astral body. So it's very, very important to understand why the Pruthakjana person does Sankara. You see, he does Sankara because he wants to enjoy Aswada. That's what the Pruthakjana person does all his life. When a child is born, child has to undergo education, undergo so much of suffering in order to enjoy this Aswada. There's nothing else in life that he will enjoy. All he will keep enjoying is this Aswada, which is a delusion, which is a mentally fabricated pleasure. So you can sit down and think about it, all the things that you enjoy, see whether it's Aswada and how it is created. You will realize that, if you understand this process correctly, as Lord Buddha has explained, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, you will realize that when Rupa, Vedana, Sanya comes to your mind, you do a Sankara, and that helps you to enjoy Aswada. If you think about something with attachment of raga, you will create Aswada, the mentally fabricated pleasure, which you will enjoy, which your mind will enjoy. And that's what the average person does all day long. That's what people work so hard for all their life, to get education, get qualification, and do a job, work all day, buy a house, buy a car, do this, do that, buy a big house, buy an expensive car, all those things that a person does to enjoy Aswada, which is a mentally fabricated pleasure. So Lord Buddha said, enjoying this mentally fabricated pleasure has a huge downside. The downfall is that when, in order to enjoy Aswada, a person has to do Sankara. In other words, he will have to do something mentally, physically, or verbally. I mean, first he has to do mentally. Without constructing a thought, you can't do anything verbally or physically. So doing something with raga, dvesha, moha is necessary to enjoy Aswada. So if a person, average person, is living to enjoy Aswada, all day what he's doing is he's doing Sankara. That's why Lord Buddha said, the person who does not know, he's constructing more than 30,000 thoughts with raga, dvesha, moha. In other words, committing Sankara more than 30,000 times a day. And when he commits Sankara, what happens is he's constructing a thought with raga, dvesha, moha. When he does that, from one side, he's releasing negative energy into the environment, which I explained last week. And when you release negative energy into the environment, the aura machine can see the color of it. If it is negative energy, the color records on the aura machine is a light color. If it is positive, it's a dark color. And if it is positive energy, it's a light color. So releasing negative energy into the environment is harmful to the environment. It damages the environment. And in return, that is harmful to every living being living on this planet. every living being, every plant and tree, they also have a life. It's damaging to all those, and that is one of the biggest sins one can commit. And without knowing, people are doing this all day, 30,000 times a day, because of not knowing Dhamma. Lord Buddha said that without intention, you cannot have a karma. The intention here, people say, I didn't have an intention to do anything wrong. I didn't know. But here, the sankara that you are doing, you are constructing your thought with raga, dvesha, moha. Now there are two ways in which you can construct your thought. One is this sang chetana. Sang means raga, dvesha, moha. Chetana is constructing your thought. So if you are doing a sankara, first you have to construct your thought with raga, dvesha, moha. So if you are constructing the thought with raga, dvesha, and that sankara polluting the environment is one of the biggest sins one can commit. So people pick up this word. Lord Buddha said, Chetanahang bhikkhave kammang vadami. Chetana means chetana. Che means chitta, tana means constructing. Constructing the chitta, constructing a thought with raga, dvesha, moha is called sanchetana. So chetana bhikkhave kammang vadami. Most people think that chetana is intention. It is not intention. Chetana means, che means chitta, tana means constructing. So if you construct your thought with raga, dvesha, moha, whether your intention was to do something bad or something good, you are doing something with raga, dvesha, moha. So it's the constructing of the thought that is important. Sanchetana. If you start with the sanchetana, in other words, you are constructing your thoughts with raga, dvesha, moha. In other words, if you are using the Vijnana program to process the data that comes into the central processing unit, and that will end up releasing negative energy into the environment, polluting the environment, causing harm to every living being living on the planet, and you will end up accumulating sins. On the other hand, instead of doing sankara, if you do visankara, in other words, if you construct your thought with maitri, karuna, mudita, upekka, you will be releasing positive energy into the environment, which you can see if you use an aura machine, you will see that it will be recorded in a light color. And that positive energy will clean the environment, purify the environment. In return, that will be beneficial to every living being living on the planet, and that will be the greatest merit one can earn. Lord Buddha said, that's why Lord Buddha said, giving dana to Samma Sambuddha and his disciples 1,000 times is a huge merit, but you can earn more merits by practicing loving kindness meditation correctly for 5 minutes. So if you practice loving kindness meditation correctly for 5 minutes, during those 5 minutes, you'll be releasing positive energy into the environment, purifying the environment, and that will be beneficial to an unlimited number of living beings living on these planets, animals as well as plants. And that is the greatest merit. And Lord Buddha, as an example, he showed a comparison. He said that merit is greater than the merit that you can earn by giving 1,000 danas to a Samma Sambuddha plus his disciples. So just try and understand the power of practicing loving kindness meditation. So if you practice meditation correctly, it's very powerful. It will earn you from one side, it will earn you merits. From the other side, it will earn you wholesome qualities. Because when you are practicing Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, that's what you do when you practice loving kindness meditation. On one side, you are releasing positive energy into the environment and earning and accumulating merits. On the other side, when when you cultivate thoughts of Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka in your mind, you will be strengthening your Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka qualities, the wholesome qualities, or the Kusal qualities. The Pali word that is used is Kusal and Akusal. In English, we call it wholesome and unwholesome. So it's very important to understand this process. So why a person does Sankara? In order to enjoy Aswada. Aswada is a mentally fabricated pleasure. You have to try and understand that more and more you think about it. The best way to understand and comprehend is take the things that you enjoy doing most, whether it's watching television or playing cricket or whatever, or eating pizzas, and see what the pleasure, the pleasure that you enjoy there, and just analyze it and see whether it's a real pleasure or it's a mentally fabricated pleasure. To give you an example, a little child, when he's 5 years old, he will enjoy playing with the dinky toys. That will be his favorite game. Let's say a child who is playing with dinky toys, but when he grows up and when he's 15 years old, he will not enjoy playing with dinky toys anymore. It's the same person. Person hasn't changed, and the toys haven't changed. It's his mental condition that has changed. When he was young, he was attached to those dinky toys with raga, and when he grows up, that goes away. His attachment will go towards, if he's a person who likes cars, he will start liking real cars, because his needs change, his mind changes, his attachment to dinky toys change from raga. He will no longer be attached to dinky toys with raga. Therefore, he cannot have an aswada by playing with those dinky toys. Now he likes to have, like to do different things. So the aswada, the mentally fabricated pleasure that people live for, is not a real pleasure. It's very, very important to understand. Until you understand and comprehend it, you will not be able to get away from it, right? It is necessary even to become Sotapanna. To a certain extent, you will have to stop enjoying this aswada. And you will not be able to stop it until and unless your mind is convinced that this is not a real pleasure, but this is a mentally fabricated pleasure. Why there's a huge downturn in aswada, another reason is this universe has a universal law called anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca means anything that we like, we are attached to, we cannot keep it in the way we want forever. For example, the father was attached to the son with raga, but father cannot control the son's life. He cannot keep the son the way he wants forever. Son will change as he grows on. So anicca. So if we are attached to anything anicca, the Lord Buddha used the word called paticca there. Paticca means if you are attached to it. Tanha, paticca, P, they all give the same meaning. Where we use the word P, jati, P, dukkha, jara, P, dukkha, and so on. So that is also attachment with raga, dvesha, moha. And when we talk about attachment in Buddhism, we are mostly talking about attachment with raga, dvesha, moha, unless otherwise we mention that the attachment is with the Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. So the word P in the first explanation, in the 11 types of suffering that Lord Buddha explained, and also the word tanha, the reason for suffering, we are going to talk about it next. And Lord Buddha said, kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Tanha means, fixing your mind to something. In other words, attachment with raga, dvesha, moha. And similarly here. Anicca, paticca means this attachment with raga, dvesha, moha, same as tanha, same as P. So if we develop an attachment to something that we cannot control, Nothing in the world, there's nothing in the world that we can control. Everything is subject to change. And if we develop an attachment to that, and that when that changes, that will cause us suffering. So anicca, if we paticca ourselves to anything anicca, in other words, if we develop an attachment with raga, desha, moha to a person or an object, and when that changes, it will cause us suffering. That's why it says anicca leads to dukkha, and that dukkha leads to anatta. Anatta means it will desert us in this samsara. It will not help us to get out of this samsara. It will not help us to become sotapanna and come to the stream, become a stream enterer, or come to the nibbana marga. It will take us away from that and make us to keep circulating in these 31 planes, going through the cycle of birth and rebirth. So it's very, very important to understand Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Why we do Sankara? Because we enjoy Aswada, which is the mentally fabricated pleasure. So you have to try and understand the pleasures that we enjoy are not real pleasures, they are mentally fabricated pleasures. If you really sit down and think about it, go through it, each pleasure that you enjoy, you will realize that it's not a real pleasure, it's a mentally fabricated pleasure. Once you understand that only, you will be able to gradually come out of it. Otherwise, you are so attached to it, it's difficult to come out. Your mind will not allow you to come out of it. So it's very important to understand. To become Sotapanna, you have to understand this. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara. When you do Sankara, you create Vijnana. Why Vijnana is bad? Because Vijnana will make you to do more, create more and more Sankara for you by processing the data that's coming into the mind with the Vijnana program. And that will keep strengthening the Raga quality, Dvesha quality, Moha quality. In turn, that will strengthen the Vijnana. That is a vicious cycle. And to come out of that, all you have to do is stop doing Sankara. Sabbe Sankara Nichati Yada Pajnaya Pasati Atanimbindati Dukke Samango Visuddhya. That's why Lord Buddha said that all you have to do in Buddha Dhamma is stop doing Sankara. In other words, if you can stop constructing thought with Raga, Dvesha, Moha, and construct all your thoughts with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, within a very, very short time, you will be able to eradicate all your Raga qualities, Dvesha qualities, Moha qualities, and your Vijnana power will die. The Vijnana negative energy will die, and it will no longer have the power to create Nama Rupa again or give you another birth in these 31 planes. And at the same time, if you are stopping doing Sankara, then you are doing Visankara. You are constructing thoughts with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. When you do that, then you are strengthening your Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka qualities that will improve your wisdom in turn. And that's a very, very precious cycle. And that once that cycle starts working, you will keep on doing that. And that will improve your wisdom gradually. And once the wisdom comes to a certain level, you will begin to understand everything about Dhamma. And eventually, you will be able to comprehend the Four Noble Truths at the highest level. When you become Sotapanna, you comprehend the Four Noble Truths at the first level. And as you go on, you will comprehend it more and more. You will fully comprehend it at Arahat level when your wisdom has developed to the correct required level. So all you have to do is to become Arahat, stop doing Sankara. Sabbe Sankara Nichati Yada Pajnaya Pasati Atanimbindati Dukke Samango Visuddhya. That's all you have to do. So we have taken so far 1 hour and about 25 minutes. I think I will stop there and give you time to ask any questions. And next time, we will spend a bit more time on this Sankara and also Aswada, Adina, Nisarana, and Anicca Dukkha Anatta. After that, we will move on to the question that Nagsen raised last time, how to eradicate our sins, which Lord Buddha explained to Angulimala. We will start discussing that. Dukkha Dukkha, Sankara Dukkha, and Viparinama Dukkha. We will spend more time on that next week. So for the time being, I'm going to stop the discussion and give you time to ask any questions.
Vandame Vanteji, Naksen.
Namo Buddhaya, Naksen.
In today's context, after the discourse, the one thought is coming in mind: how to sharpen the pragya.
How to sharpen the prajna? All we have to do is, now we will have, all we have to do is stop doing sankara, right? Now it's easily said than done. Before our mind is able to stop doing sankara gradually, our mind must be convinced that why we do sankara, the reason is why our mind does sankara, in order to enjoy aswada. And our mind is attached to it. If we will have to convince our mind that aswada is not a real pleasure, it's a mentally fabricated pleasure, and it has a huge downside. Once the mind is convinced on that, only you will be able to gradually stop doing sankara in order to enjoy aswada. Otherwise, your mind will keep asking for aswada. For example, if you are used to watching television, and your mind will keep asking for it in the evening or whenever, let's say after work, you are used to watching television for a couple of hours a night. And you cannot just stop it. Your mind will keep asking for it, and you will feel sad and unhappy if you don't give it to the mind, because mind wants it. Mind should be convinced that it is not a real pleasure that you get out of watching television. It's a mentally fabricated pleasure, and it has a huge downfall. Once the mind is convinced, then the mind would bother about bothering you to watch television anymore. It's like a little child. If he knows, if he doesn't know about the candlelight, he will try to touch it. But if he tries it once and he knows the downfall, he knows that if he touches it again, it will burn his hand. So it will be recorded in his mind. His mind knows touching the flame will burn his hand, and he will have to suffer. He will never touch it again, right? So the mind has to be convinced. That's why we need to practice. Firstly, to become Sotapanna, we have to listen to the correct Dhamma, and then we have to go through it over and over again and comprehend it. And at the same time, we have to practice loving kindness meditation. There are 4 meditation techniques that Lord Buddha has given in Satipatthana Sutra, called Chaturaraka. Out of those 4, the easiest one is loving kindness meditation, and the most fruitful. And practice loving kindness meditation as much as possible, and that will help you to gradually eradicate raga, desha, moha. In other words, gradually reduce doing sankara, and more and more visankara. It's a gradual process. You can't do it overnight. You have to do it slowly, and slow and steady that you have to do. That's why I said the best way to do it is that you keep 2 hours a day initially if you are a working person. For a monk, of course, he has all the time in the world. He can do it all the time. But for a working person, there are 101 things you have to deal with in a day. So while doing that, it's straight away, it's difficult to practice this. So that's why you have to get away from those things for 2 hours a day. Keep yourself for 2 hours reserved every day for practicing this path. I think that's the best way to do it for a lay person. Does that answer your question, Nagsen?
Right, Bhanteji. The question, this question I asked, why? Because the human life, what you had rightly said that after a lot of efforts, we get a human life. And even the mind is very much convinced about the pleasures and about the sankhara. Even mind is trying to understand everything about the pleasures, but still some karmic energy or something which holds you to do some actions, which again takes you into the into the game of the rag, dvesha, and moha. So in that particular context, how this program of pragya gets activated in mind and keep you enlightened about your path.
Yes, what we have to do is, you see, now let's go back to these four boxes. The first box has our wholesome qualities. Second box have merits. So we have to, then the third box has unwholesome qualities. Fourth box have the sins that we have accumulated. So to walk this path towards Nibbana, what we have to do is we have to strengthen the wholesome qualities that we have in the first box, and we have to accumulate more and more merits that we have in the second box. Then we have to gradually eradicate and try and completely get rid of the unwholesome qualities that we have in the third box. And similarly, we will try and get rid of as much as possible the sins that we have in the fourth box, right? So for these, Lord Buddha has given procedures, the things that we have to do. Firstly, we have to listen to Dhamma, Kalyana Mitra Sevana. We associate a person who can explain Dhamma to you, and then listen to that Dhamma, and then you go through it over and over again, try and comprehend it. At the same time, you practice loving kindness meditation. So when you practice loving kindness meditation, gradually your wholesome qualities will improve in the first box, and you will keep accumulating more and more merits in the second box, right? That will happen. Then what happens is, now the next discussion, next topic that we are going to do, dukkha dukkha sankhara dukkha viparinama dukkha. The suffering that comes to us as a result of the sins that we have accumulated in the fourth box. So how to eradicate about 90% of those sins, Lord Buddha has explained through the explanation that he has given through these three words, dukkha dukkha sankhara dukkha viparinama dukkha, which we'll be discussing in detail next time, right? So that way we'll be able to eradicate 90% of our suffering, 90% of the problems that are coming from our past karma. In other words, the question that you are asking, we are trying so hard to keep our mind in Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, but mind, some power drags our mind into doing things with Raga, Desha, Moha. That is as a result of our past karma, bad karma, which is sins, which we find in box number 4. So the way to eradicate our sins, in other words, the way to reduce the weight, the accumulation that we have in box 4, Lord Buddha has explained through dukkha dukkha sankhara dukkha viparinama dukkha, which we are going to discuss next week, right? Then the third box that we have, the unwholesome qualities. If we practice wholesome qualities all the time and not practice unwholesome qualities, the strength of the unwholesome qualities will gradually decline automatically. It will happen. It's like this, you all understand cricket. Now, when you start playing cricket, as a young boy, playing softball with, let's say, at the age of 5, you play with your friends and there's no one to coach you and you don't know about the textbook strokes. You just play wild strokes. Then you come to, in the school, let's say you start playing under 12 cricket. And then the coach will say, oh, no, don't play those strokes. They are wild strokes. These are the textbook strokes, correct strokes you must play. So he will teach you how to play them, make you to practice them. Every time when you play a wild stroke, he will shout at you and stop you playing wild strokes. So after some time, if you keep on doing that, you will forget about wild strokes and you will play textbook strokes all the time, right? So similar thing that happens here, if you practice wholesome qualities all the time and stop practicing unwholesome qualities, the strength of the unwholesome qualities will gradually decline and eventually you will be able to get rid of altogether. So the process will be completed. You will be maximizing your wholesome qualities. You'll be maximizing the merits that you have. You'll minimize and completely get rid of the unwholesome qualities. You will reduce your sins by about 90%. There will be about 10% you cannot reduce because there are two types of sins that Lord Buddha said that you cannot get pardon from. And we will discuss them next week when we talk about this dukkha dukkha, sankara dukkha, and viparinama dukkha.
Many thanks, Bhanteji.
That's why even an Arahat person will have to undergo certain suffering because of those sins that he cannot get rid of. For example, the Venerable Mongallana, who was one of the chief disciples of Lord Buddha, even as an Arahat monk, he had to face the death, he had to die by getting assaulted by these burglars and robbers, you see, because he had committed an anantariya papa karma, which is not possible to get pardon from. So anantariya papa karma, and there are certain types of arya upavada you cannot get pardon from. Other than that, all the other sins, like Angulimala did, we all can eradicate gradually by practicing the meditation technique that Lord Buddha has given, and Lord Buddha has emphasized that to Angulimala, because Angulimala came with an accumulation of huge amount of sins in this present life, and he practiced that meditation technique for 18 hours a day and managed to eradicate more than 90% of the sins that he had accumulated, and he got rid of the unwholesome qualities completely, and thereby he developed his wisdom to the highest level and merits to the highest possible level, even though he had some sins in the fourth box which he could get rid of altogether. There are some Arupavadas. He managed to become Arahat, and even as an Arahat monk, when he went out begging for food, and he was assaulted, people were throwing rock stones at him, and he was bleeding and so on. So he had to face those little problems because of the sins that were left in the fourth box, which he couldn't get rid of. Luckily, he didn't have anantariya papa karma like Mongallana did. Lord Buddha prevented him from committing that anantariya papa karma. He was going to murder his mother, and Lord Buddha saw it, and he went there and he prevented him from it. And fortunately for him, he did not have any anantariya papa karma, and he could eradicate all his unwholesome qualities and more than 90% of his sins, and he became Arhat. So we will discuss that in more detail next time when we talk about dukkha dukkha, sankara dukkha, and viparinama dukkha. Does that answer your question, Naksen?
Yeah, Bhanteji, many thanks.
You see, you are asking good questions. It shows that you are thinking about it, you see, which is very, very good.
Vandami Bhante, Nama Buddhaya.
Nama Buddhaya. What's your name, sir?
This is Pankaj Bhante.
Hello, Pankaj.
Bhante, I understand anicca. I understand that anicca would take you to dukkha.
Yes.
But I am not understanding anatta.
Anatta. Okay. Now, let's go through that process again. Good question. Anicca means, we cannot keep anything the way we want. You say you understand anicca, right? Then because of that, if you are attached to something that is anicca, if you develop a mental attachment with raga, desha, moha towards anything anicca, that will cause us dukkha, right? Suffering. So when that suffering happens, what happens is, if we are attached to something, right, with raga, dvesha, moha, what we are doing is we are doing sankhara, right? When we do sankhara, well, all we are doing is accumulating unwholesome qualities and accumulating sins. When we do that, you say it will desert us in this samsara. In other words, it will make the way for us to go to the four hells in the next life. That is what we mean by anatta. You see, in single language, we have a word called anatha. Anatha means, you completely get lost in samsara, in life. The word anatha is used in the single language. It gives the same meaning as anatta. So anatta means you are getting completely lost. Lost where? Lost in the samsara, right? That is as a result of when you are developing an attachment with raga, dvesha, moha, right? You are developing that attachment with raga, dvesha, moha because you enjoy aswada. So this anicca, dukkha, anatta is very much connected to aswada. All these things are connected to each other. If you sit down and think about it, you can see how this puzzle fits in. So when you do sankhara, in other words, so what we are doing, sankhara is you are developing an attachment to something that is anicca, right? Sankhara is you are developing an attachment to something that is anicca. So once you do that, from one side, you will end up dukkha. From the other side, you will keep strengthening your unwholesome qualities and accumulating more and more sins, which will make you to be deserted in this samsara, which is anatta. Does that answer your question?
Bhante, so maybe my question is more related to how this word anatta is formed. I have understood it as no self. I have understood it as no soul. Something.
You see, now this is the problem. You see, you are trying to compare what I am saying with what you understood before. Leave all that aside in a separate box.
Okay,
if you try
Bhante.
to compare, you will end up in problems. You see, you cannot compare apples with oranges. What you learn, put them in a separate box, keep it under your bed for a while, and take this in a separate box. Don't try to compare that with this. If you try to compare, that's what happened to the Panchavaggiya Bhikkhu. It took them 21 days, 4 of them. The first one became Sotapanna in the first day. The other 4, up to 21 days it took them because they were comparing. They had a lot of wrong knowledge that they gathered by mastering over 60 religions and more than 30 different meditation techniques. And they were comparing what Lord Buddha was explaining through Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra with the wrong knowledge that they had, and they kept on asking questions and debating and so on because they were comparing. Whereas people like Sopaka Sunita, children of under 15 years, under 16, and they had never been to school, and they were street cleaners. Lord Buddha came to them and sat with them by the roadside and, preached Dhamma to them for less than 1 hour. And they comprehended Dhamma and became Sotapanna, right? So this comparison is the biggest obstacle. Don't compare. Leave what you learned earlier in a separate box. If you start comparing, you will end up in difficulties. You will never comprehend Dhamma.
Sadhuvad, Bhante. Thank you very much, Bhante.
Vandami Bhante.
And now, Budaya.
This is Kalpana.
What's your name, madam?
Kalpana. My name is Kalpana.
Hello, Kalpana.
Yeah, I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Just let's do one at a time. First one is that how do you assess where you are in this marg? How do you assess yourself? What is the benchmark for this, or what I have achieved, or how do I know where I am?
Right. How do you know where you are? I mean, you see, now only you can assess where you are. No one else can. But, you know, if I talk to you for half an hour and ask you certain questions, I can roughly guess whether you are Sotapanna or not. But other than that, you know, I can say you understand them. So some points of Dhamma, you don't understand certain points. Now, if you want to assess where you are in Dhamma, that's your question, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Right. So it's only you can assess, no one else can. Once you become Sotapanna, you will know that you will have dukkha jnana, you will have, you know, the complete knowledge of what is suffering. You will understand the suffering that you undergo as a person and the humans undergo, and the suffering that is in the animal world. Animal world, if you look at it, you know, we discussed it in more detail. Animals undergo more than 100 times of suffering than human beings. They have nothing to eat when they are hungry most of the time. Sometimes they die of hunger, they die of thirst, and sometimes several days they have to go without food and without water, and they have no clothes to wear, and they suffer from the cold weather and the hot weather, and they have no roof over their head. When it's raining, they get wet. When it's sunny, they suffer from the heat. And when they are sick, they have no medicine. So like that, you have to see how much suffering they undergo, right? Comparatively, then I'm sure you don't want to go, you will realize if you go through it, your mind will be convinced that you will never ever want to go to the animal kingdom. So then you can't see the other three. You can't see Bhutaloka, Pretaloka, and the hell itself. But Lord Buddha has said that they are even worse. So you don't want to go to all those. You see, that's all suffering, right? So if you understand that fully and your mind is convinced that you never want to go there, right? You never want suffering. And also if you are convinced that human life is suffering, which is the most difficult thing to understand, because no matter how much suffering people undergo, people don't realize it. And because they are so much attached to the aswada that they enjoy in their life with the children or the family or with other things, never mind, they say, never mind about the suffering, I still like to come back to the same life. Many people say that, you see. So in order to get dukkha jnana, you have to really understand the suffering that Lord Buddha has explained. The suffering that Lord Buddha has explained, you can learn, you can comprehend by correctly understanding this Panchaskandha and the Panchopadana Skandha. But through the Panchopadana Skandha, we do Sankara. Why we do Sankara? In order to enjoy Aswada. And there's a huge downfall in Aswada because Aswada leads to, because of the Anicca Dukkha Anatta nature of Aswada, enjoying Aswada will make the way for you to go to those four hells where you don't want to go. So if you can understand that and comprehend that, you will never want to come back to this human life or go below that to the four hells. And if you come to that understanding, you have understood the first noble truth, the noble truth of suffering. Then also you understand the reason for suffering is tanha, attachment. And because of attachment, why attachment? Because of you enjoy aswada and so on. You see, you have to understand these four: noble truth of suffering, noble truth of the reason for suffering, a noble truth of out of suffering, and the noble truth of the way out of suffering. Well, if you understand those four, you are sotapanna, right? If you don't, then you are somewhere in the middle, right? You cannot, it's very hard to say I understand 10% or 50% or 75%. Basically, one either understands it fully or not, right? So if you want to judge where you are, it's like you doing an exam. If you are doing a bachelor's degree, you can say, okay, I got a first class, or I got a second upper, or second lower, or general. It's not like that here. Either you understand it or you don't. Either you have comprehended it or you haven't.
Okay. Okay. Another question I have,
Yes.
like you told the story about the couple who went to the Philippines, and they had food there, and they were happy, and then they became, then after certain time when they were unhappy about things, right? So
No,
so
first they were very happy, then they became unhappy, right?
yeah, yes.
Okay.
So as a mindful person, as a Sotapanna person, what the couple would have done, right? That's my question, is like what
Well, if it's a
they would have done.
Sotapanna person to start with, they won't eat meat,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
And before they, start going to restaurants, they will make sure they will talk to that person and say, look, we are vegetarian. We don't want to go to this type of restaurants. Can you pick this type of restaurant?
Okay.
This is Sotapanna person will think completely differently.
And what about the other couple, the Philippine couple? They would have asked them before serving them, or how?
Well, the Filipino couple were Pruthakjana people. They didn't know anything about Dhamma, so they just enjoy life, isn't it?
Okay.
But if they were Sotapanna, then obviously they will take them to a restaurant that they go, and it will be a vegetarian restaurant.
Okay.
And they'll be very concerned. They'll be asking the people, would you like this type of vegetables? Do you like it oily, or do you take chili? Because in Philippines, they eat a lot of chilies. And do you prefer boiled food? Or they will ask lots of questions. They'll be more concerned to make sure that the other person will not be unhappy. They will do everything possible. They'll be thinking further, you see. The way of thinking will change once you become Sotapanna.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
See, here comes the question of eating, non-vegetarian food. And people say, now some people say, as long as it's not kill for you and you didn't see that and so on. So many excuses people give to eat meat and fish, or eat non-vegetarian food, eggs and whatever. So if you really think about it, you see, now why do we eat meat and fish? That is mainly because of raga, the greed that we have for the taste, right? And is it a necessity? Can't we live without it in the world that we live in? Of course we can. There are plenty of vegetarian food that we can eat. And secondly, if you understand, the meat that you are earning belongs to some living being. When he was living, it belongs to a living being. That living being, when you could have been your father or your mother in a previous life. So if you knew that, would you eat your mother's or father's flesh? Certainly you won't, right? So if you understand Dhamma, there's no way you are going to be eating meat and fish unless you take it as a medicine. If you are taking something as a medicine, then you are not taking with Raga Desha Moha, because you don't have any other choice. You are taking it for a short period until that medicine is necessary, unless otherwise it cannot be avoided. If you take it as a medicine, that's not with Raga Desha Moha. If you are doing something with Raga Desha Moha, only it's wrong. But then again, even if you are taking as a medicine, if you think that, if that could be the flesh of your mother or father, then you will have to think about it seriously. Whether if your life depends on it, then you will have to take it as a medicine. But in the world that we live in today, there are plenty of other things that we can do. We can eat and be healthy. We don't have to eat meat and fish. In fact, eating meat and fish today has become one of the most unhealthiest habits. You see, when that animal is dying, he is not dying happily. You see, he is dying with anger and resentment of the person that who is killing him. So his blood will be poisoned anyway. And, when we are cooking some vegetables, if we find some rotten piece, we will cut it off and put it away. We are not going to cook it. But when we eat animals, we don't know what and what illnesses they had. And without knowing that, we eat them. So all that germs and whatever they had, certain amount, even if they are dead, certain amount of those germs and viruses will be in their flesh, and so on. So if we eat that, it's not going to do any good to us. See? So eating meat and fish is not suitable, not correct. If you understand Dhamma and if you compare it to Dhamma, you will realize that it is not a thing to do. And on the other hand, Lord Buddha has said, if there's nothing else to eat, for example, if you are traveling in the forest several days, you haven't eaten, and if you come across a dead body, and you have no choice but to eat that, then you can eat it. You are not eating with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. The most important, you see, the golden key word here is Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Whether you are doing something with Raga, Dvesha, Moha or without it, if you are doing it, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. So how come Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka comes to your mind when you are eating a dead body in the forest? You are eating that dead body with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka for yourself, because if you don't eat it, you are going to die, right? So because of that dead body that was there, you will eat, you haven't killed it. But if you have anything else to eat, it's better to eat something else rather than eating a dead body, because that dead body, you don't know what viruses, what illnesses, what germs it has in it. So it's always best to keep away from meat and fish and become a vegetarian. Even Ayurvedic medicine, even allopathy medicine today says that it's healthier to become vegetarian. It's common sense. Any other questions, anyone?
Yeah, Bhante, just to take this point further on this non-vegetarian stuff,
Yes.
Hello. So a lot of people
Yes.
say that even animals, the plants also have life, and when you eat vegetables, then you are also killing them and all that. So they stretch it and take it to that level. Or even they say that eggs nowadays are not fertilized. So that was one part of the question. The second is, I don't know if it's right or wrong. When Buddha had his last meal, it was pork.
No, it's not meat at all. I'll explain it to you.
Okay, so
Right, go on, complete your question, then
so
I will answer.
things. So because whatever little bit I've read, it says that the schism in the Sangha was caused because Devdutt wanted non-veg not to be eaten by the monks, and he wanted to be very strictly laid down that non-vegetarian won't be part of the diet, and that's where the division was caused in the Sangha. So if you want to elaborate on that.
Right, well, what's your question? Tell me the question now, the bottom line.
So the bottom line is, first is the non-vegetarians stretch the point and say that even when you eat vegetarian food, you're killing plants because they also have life. Earlier it was not proven, but now it's scientifically proven that they also have life, they also have feelings, they also communicate.
Well, who has proved that?
It's scientifically proven that.
Science is something that changes from day to day. What they say today changes tomorrow, right? So science is not the science that human beings are using. It's not something that remains the same forever. It's not a perfect art. It's guesswork. You see, what they said 5 years ago is not valid anymore. They keep changing things and they accept it. That's what the modern science is. But Lord Buddha's science, the science that Lord Buddha has explained through using the cause and effect theory, haven't changed in 2,600 years, right? Lord Buddha has never said anywhere that plants have a life and eating plants is not good for you. Plants, you see, when we eat, we don't uproot the plant completely and destroy it. We will either eat the fruits that's given by the plant or its leaves. We don't have to destroy the plant. We are not killing the plant, are we? When we eat the fruit of the plant, do we kill the plant?
No, but there are certain plants like potatoes or something, you'll have to uproot it, right? Or even some vegetables, carrots or
example, you see, the vegetables do not have the life of a living being you see, it has a different kind of energy. According to Buddhism, scientists can say anything they like. You see, whatever the scientists say has nothing to do with Lord Buddha's science. What Lord Buddha has explained is, you know, eating meat and fish. He hasn't eaten it, but at the time, you know, he said, don't, you know, he said, now don't kill.
Yeah.
Don't engage in the business of selling meat and fish.
Yeah.
So without doing that, how can a person eat meat? It's common sense.
Right.
You see? You know, if you don't kill, he said, don't kill.
Yeah.
Then
Right
he said,
livelihood
don't sell, right?
Yeah.
Don't sell. So if someone doesn't sell, how can you buy? So if you refrain from those two, you won't be able to eat meat and fish anyway.
Right. Right.
So why is it necessary to eat that? You see, it's because of raga, because of the desire to enjoy aswada by satisfying the taste of your tongue, which is connected to the mind. You see, people eat meat and fish to enjoy the aswada out of it. It's a mentally fabricated pleasure. You see, if they know the real contents of that meat, it will, instead of becoming a mentally fabricated pleasure, it will become a negative pleasure. You see?
Yeah. But I went to Burma, for example, to monastery, and I saw a lot of monks eating non-veg.
Yeah, all the monks eat there. I was in Burma last year, just before
Yeah.
COVID started. I was there. Just because they eat, do you mean to say that is correct according to Vedanta?
No, I'm asking the logic for that.
Yeah. You see, those who want to eat it, they will find all kinds of excuses, right?
Okay.
In Salleka Sutra, Lord Buddha said, just because other people do wrong things, we don't have to do it, right?
Right.
They will suffer the consequences for that, not us. We
Right.
don't have to earn sins on their account.
Right. Thank you, Bhanteji.
You're welcome, sir. Any
Thank
other questions, anyone?
Namo Buddhaya.
Number
Bhanteji.
there. What's your name, madam?
It's Hardika.
Hello, Hardika.
Yeah. You mentioned something about intention today.
Yes.
So I missed that point. Would you be able to repeat that, please?
Yes. You see, Lord Buddha said, Chetanahang bhikkhave kammang vadami. Right? What it means is, without Chetana, there's no karma. Right? So the word Chetana has been misinterpreted, and a lot of people believe Chetana means intention. For example, you know, they say, look, I didn't intend to pollute the environment by releasing negative energy. I didn't know. I did it for 50 years. Now I'm trying to stop it. But whatever I have done in the past, I had no intention of doing it. Right? So they hang on to this word intention, thinking that Chetana means intention. In Lord Buddha's language, he said, Chetanahang bhikkhave kammang vadami. If there's no Chetana, right? Chetana, there's no kamma. Chetana means, che means chitta, the mind, tana means constructing, right? So if you construct chitta with raga dvesha moha, you will end up committing unwholesome deeds and earning unwholesome qualities and sins. But if you have constructed the thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, and take some action, then the action that you are taking is wholesome, and it will strengthen your wholesome qualities, and it will give you merits. So Chetana does not mean intention. What Chetana means is constructing the thought. There are two ways in which you can construct the thought. First one is with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. You will end up constructing a wholesome thought. The second one is with Raga Dvesha Moha. You will end up constructing an unwholesome thought. So Chetana does not mean, you say, intention.
And Sankara means constructing a thought with unwholesome
Yeah,
as well.
Sang is Raga Dvesha Moha if you are doing anything to do with Raga Dvesha Moha. You see, you are using Raga, Desha, Moha to construct the thought. The first thing that you do is constructing a thought, right? Sang means constructing a thought with Raga, Desha, Moha, or to do with it. And Kara means the verb, the action, actually doing it, right? So Sankara means doing something with Raga, Dvesha, Moha.
So Chetana means thinking with Raga, Desha, Moha, and Sankara means
Chetana means constructing the thought, you know, by building the
constructing an
process to
action.
start a thought. You see, you need something, a platform to build a thought on, right? So if you build the platform with Raga, Desha, Moha, then obviously you will continue to build on that platform a thought with Raga, Desha, Moha. And then the action will be Raga, Desha, Moha. Whether you take the action mentally, physically, or verbally, that will be an action with Raga, Desha, Moha.
Okay, so just correct me if I'm wrong, just to make sure I understand.
Yes.
So Chetana is constructing a thought with Raga, the unwholesome thought, let's say, which is Raga, Desha, Moha. And
No,
Sankara,
Chetana is constructing a thought.
constructing.
Right? Sanchetana, if you say Sanchetana, that means you are constructing a thought with Raga, Dvesha, Moha.
Okay, so Chetana is constructing a thought. Sankara is putting action to that thought.
Yes.
And Vijnana is creating negative energy with
Vijnana is the result of doing
Sankara.
a Sankara, right?
Yeah.
When you do Sankara, what happens is your Raga quality, Dvesha quality, Moha quality gets stronger, right?
Yeah.
So the Raga quality, Dvesha quality, Moha quality together, if you think of it as a battery, it produces an energy, right? The energy produced by that battery or the three qualities is called Vijnana.
Yeah, and Vin Sankara is action with wholesome action.
Visankara, yes, that's the opposite of Sankara.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. And then prakyana is positive energy.
Positive energy, yes. When you do Visankara, you strengthen your positive, you strengthen your wholesome qualities, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeka qualities. So if you take it as a battery, that battery, those four qualities produces an energy. That energy is called prajna, right? That's the opposite of the vijnana. Prajna is the energy that you need to understand Dhamma. Prajna is the wisdom. Hello, Hardika.
Yeah. Hello. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So basically, it's in just abbreviating for myself. This is just for my own reference.
Yes.
So basically, it's thought, action, and energy.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anyone? We still got time.
Vandami Bhante, Pankaj again.
Hello, Pankaj.
Bhante, I see when you are talking about positive qualities, that wholesome qualities that we are putting up in box 1, we are talking about Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekka.
That's right.
Is there anything called a dosa, a moha, a raga, opposite of raga, dosa, moha?
Yeah, you see now in the box 1, we have the wholesome qualities, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. In box 3, we have the unwholesome quality, Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Dosa is Dvesha, it's the same thing.
So, no,
Raga, dosa. You are saying Raga, Dosa, Moha, right?
Right, Bhante. But is there a quality called a dosa, a moha, a raga?
Yeah, Raga, Dosa, Moha qualities. Yes, that's what we have been talking about. That's what we have in the box number 3. Raga quality, Dvesha quality, or Dosa quality, if you like to use the word Dosa, and Moha quality, right? I am using the word Raga, Dvesha, Moha. You are using the 3 words, Raga, Dosa, Moha. It's the same thing.
Okay, Bhante. But is there a quality called araga, a dosa, not dos, or a dvesha, or a moha? Is
Yeah,
there a quality?
raga quality is, is the quality of getting attached to something, right? With greed and desire. That's the raga quality. If you have raga quality, your tendency is to get something to attach with greed and with greed and what's the other word?
Desire is what you said earlier.
Greed and desire. Desire is the word that I was
And
looking
anger.
for.
Is it not anger? Anger?
No, the other side of that is dvesha. If you have dvesha quality, you tend to get to things attached with anger and resentment. You see?
What and moha will be?
Moha is not knowing the Four Noble Truths.
Okay.
Right?
So wrong
Because of
view.
not knowing the Four Noble
Wrong
Truths,
view.
we have, we have our ego, and ego, then as a result of ego, there are so many other negative qualities that we have. And
So-
that is because not knowing the Four Noble Truths. If
So is
we
it wrong view?
beg your pardon?
So is it a wrong view?
Wrong view.
Yeah.
Where does wrong view come here from?
No, I'm asking that the fact that you don't know that this is impermanent or this is not, is aswada, not knowing that, is that moha also, or only not knowing the Four Noble Truths is moha?
You see, the correct view, the word correct view, wrong view is actually wrong itself.
Okay.
What we have is, you say, samaditi. Samaditi, using the word
Right.
correct view, wrong view, when you use this wrong terminology, you end up in trouble with wrong understandings, right? Lord Buddha has never used anywhere the wrong view and correct view. What he has used is samaditi and mithyaditi, right? Samaditi is the path that allows you to eradicate. Samaditi is the knowledge, the vision that you have got of eradicating. Now, sang means raga, dvesha, moha. Ma means completely eradicating. That is the vision. So it's the vision or the understanding that you have of how to eradicate raga, dvesha, moha. Samaditi, right? Not knowing that anything else is mithyaditi.
Moha is basically not knowing the Four Noble Truths.
Let me think about that. If you know that, yes, Four Noble Truths at the first level.
Okay, Mandaji, thank you.
You see, when you say not knowing the Four Noble Truths not only include samaditi, it includes samaditi, samma sankappa, samma vāca, all 8.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
8 are included in the Four Noble Truths. So if you cannot say Four Noble Truth is 100% equivalent to samaditi. Right?
Right. So
Four
it's a
Noble Truths includes the lot.
okay. So it's the Noble Eightfold Path, maybe.
No, not only the Noble Eightfold Path. Four Noble Truths is firstly suffering, right? Then the reason for suffering. Then the third one is out of suffering. Fourth one is the way out of suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. Right? So when you say, Four Noble Truths, it's the
whole
lot.
It includes that also, right?
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
You see, there are subtle differences between these. If you fully understand it, you will see how these bits and pieces fit together in the puzzle. They're all connected to each other, and some of them are similar, some of them have little differences. It's important to understand those differences. Any other questions, anyone? We still got about 40 minutes left. Now, those who are practicing the path 2 hours a day, Have they come across any problems? Any questions? Now, how many of you are actually practicing 2 hours a day? You can unmute and tell me those who are doing it. No one?
I haven't been consistent with it.
Okay, at least you are trying, right?
Yes, yeah.
Which is very good. Anyone else who is trying?
Is it necessary to do at a stretch of 2 hours, or like you are able to read it in the evening, do some meditation in the morning?
Sorry, I'm losing
Sorry.
words. I can't understand what you're saying.
Is it important to do 2 hours at a stretch, or we can say get time for reading Dhamma, reading in the evening, do some meditation, some 1 hour or 45 minutes in the morning, then sometimes in the afternoon? Does that work, or we should try to take out 2 hours?
Well, I prefer, if you concentrate 2 hours at one stretch, then your concentration stays, for 2 hours. It will develop as you go on,
Right.
rather than breaking it into several parts.
Okay.
Then you try to get into it, come out of it, go back into it again. You see, if you try and concentrate for 2 hours continuously without any other disturbances, your concentration, samma sati, will keep improving.
Okay, Mandir.
Vandami Bhante.
Yes, sir.
If you don't, yes, Bhante, yeah. If you don't mind, Bhante, can you please take us through those what we are supposed to do for those 2 hours, Bhante? Can you tell us that again one more time, Bhante?
Yes. Firstly, what we do is now we ask for forgiveness from the Noble Triple Gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Right? Throughout our samsara, by doing sankara, we have done many, many wrong things, mentally, physically, and verbally, to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Right? And most of them could be Arya Upavada. Some of them could be Arya Upavada. Some of them could be minor wrongdoings. Some Arya Upavadas we cannot get forgiveness, but we don't know what we have done in the past. So we ask for forgiveness for any wrongdoings that we have done in the past, knowingly and unknowingly, towards Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Is that clear? Pankaj, that's the first thing that you have to do. Is that clear? Do you have any questions on that?
No, Bhante, this is clear, Bhante.
Right. The second thing that we do is throughout our samsara, we have done so much of wrongdoings to the living beings living on the 31 planes. In this samsara, we have been born and reborn in uncountable number of lives. And throughout that period, because of doing sankara, because of not knowing the Four Noble Truths, we have done many wrongdoings mentally, physically, and mentally, verbally, and physically to millions and trillions, maybe, of living beings living on these 31 planes. We don't know who they are, and we don't know what we have done, except what we have done in the present life. So we think of all the living beings living on the 31 planes. There's 20 Brahmaloka, 6 Divyaloka, the human world, and the 4 hells. Firstly, we ask for forgiveness from all of them for any wrongdoings that we have done, mentally, physically, or verbally, knowingly or unknowingly. We ask for forgiveness from them. Is that clear?
Yes, Bhante.
Then we transfer our merits to them. It's a way of paying compensation. You see, now throughout our samsara, we have accumulated sins as well as merits, all of us. And we have merits to transfer. When we transfer merits like giving dana, our merits will double and triple. It's a universal law in this universe. If you give something, you get more of it. So that's why we give dana. In fact, every religion in the world, if you take the 6 major religions in the world, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Sikhism, all have dana. So because you see all those religions have started from Buddha Dhamma. If you go back to the roots, already there is proof that Guru Nanak, who started Sikhism, was a Buddhist monk, and then Lord Jesus Christ was a Buddhist monk. It has been proved now. And then we all know how Islam started. That came from Christianity, and Judaism came from Christianity and Islam, and Hinduism came from Buddhism. So, you know, all of them have come from Buddha Dhamma. What they have done is, whoever started those religions took certain parts of Buddha Dhamma and changed it to their requirements and made a religion out of it. So all those religions are, all those six are religions, but Lord Buddha's teachings, Buddha Dhamma, is not a religion, it's a science. It's a science that explains Sua Asua Dahasak Dhamma Skanda. Dhamma means the natural laws. Kanda means a mountain of natural laws, uncountable number of natural laws. Sua Asua means good things that you should do. Asua means wrong things that you shouldn't do. So Lord Buddha explained an unlimited number of natural laws, out of which he mainly said that we have to, as human beings, in order to eradicate our suffering, there are four main natural laws that we have to comprehend, and he called them the Four Noble Truths. Once, while he was traveling through a forest with his disciples, he picked up 4 leaves from a tree, and he said, the amount of Dhamma, amount of universal laws that I comprehended is equivalent to the number of leaves that are in this forest. This is just an example, a simile. And then he said, what I have explained to people as 4 noble truths, what is necessary. And that is the only necessary thing that people, human beings, have to learn to eradicate their suffering completely and become Arahat. He called them the 4 noble truths. You see, so Lord Buddha comprehended Sua Asua Dahasak Dhammaskanda, unlimited number of natural laws, out of which he said the things that we should do and shouldn't do, out of which he explained 4 main natural laws to us, called the 4 noble truths. So that's what we have to comprehend in order to eradicate our suffering completely. Our main intention, why we are following Buddha Dhamma, is to eradicate our suffering, nothing else, right? If someone wants to do something else, there anyone else who is following Buddha Dhamma to attain something other than eradicating suffering? Is there anyone? If there's someone, tell me, what is your intention of following Buddha Dhamma? It is to eradicate suffering. Somebody could say, I want to live a better life. So living a better life is reducing your suffering. So one way or the other, the 4 noble truths teach us how to eradicate suffering. So eradicating suffering is the main target, main intention of Buddha Dhamma. So coming back to your question, tell me the question again.
Bhante, I wanted to see what we need to do for these 2 hours.
So I say what we are trying to do is 2 hours. Firstly, we ask for forgiveness from the Noble Triple Gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Then we ask for forgiveness from the living beings living on the 31 planes, right? Why we do all this? To eradicate our suffering. Then we ask for forgiveness from them, we transfer them merits and wish them Nibbana, which is the best place. So Lord Buddha said, when we do that, you see, when we firstly, when we ask for forgiveness from them and transfer merits to them, it's a way of when they receive those merits and something good happens to them. So when we keep on doing that more and more and more, a lot of good things will happen to them, and the bad thing that we did to them will be cancelled out. It's like paying compensation to satisfy that person, to correct the wrong that we have done to that person. That's the idea of doing it. So what we do is, firstly, we ask for forgiveness from the Noble Triple Gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Then we ask for forgiveness from the living beings living on the 31 planes, transcend their merits and wish them well. Why we do that? That will help us to eradicate our sins, the sins that we have accumulated. At the same time, when we are doing that, we are practicing Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. So automatically it will, from one side, it will eradicate the sins that we have accumulated over a period of time. Just doing 1 or 2 days is not sufficient, because the sins that we have accumulated in that fourth box, we have accumulated over billions and billions of samsara, billions and billions of lives throughout this samsara. So we have to do it for a certain period of time, like Angulimala did it for 18 hours a day for 3 months. So in order to get results, we have to do it for several months, maximum of 7 months, I would say, because according to Lord Buddha, those people who are falling into the first 3 categories, that is, the first 4 out of the 4 categories, 3 categories, Lord Buddha said that they'll be able to attain at least Sotapanna within 7 months. So at least 7 months until, we will have to do that. Remember, Lord Buddha categorized people into 4 categories: Utkatitanna, Vipatitanna, Neya, Padaparama. So the 3 categories, Utkatitanna, Vipatitanna, and Neya, those people will be able to comprehend Dhamma within maximum of 7 months. First category within 7 days, second category within 7 weeks, and third category within 7 months. So if you put them all together, all of them will comprehend Dhamma and at least become Sotapanna. And if they try hard, they can even become Arahata within 7 months. So maximum period you have to do that, if you do it properly, is 7 months, right, to become Sotapanna. So you have to do that. Firstly, you ask for forgiveness from the Noble Triple Gem, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Then you ask for forgiveness from the living beings living on the 31 planes, transcend their merits and wish them well. Then you move on to practicing loving kindness meditation, right? So that will be for 1 hour. Then the next hour, you listen to Dhamma. For half an hour, you listen to Dhamma, and the other half an hour you utilize for Yoniso Manasikara. What you listen, you go through it over and over again and try and comprehend it. Now, does that answer your question? Or do you have more questions on that, Pankaj?
Yes, Bhante. So I also wanted to see the mapping of doing this to the 4 buckets that we fill up.
Sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. Mapping of what?
Mapping of doing these things to the 4 buckets we have. What is happening with these 4 buckets when I am doing this?
Sorry, I am losing words in between. I don't understand. I didn't talk about a mapping. I don't know what you mean by mapping. Anyway, I'm losing words in between. Can you say it slowly and louder?
Yes, Bhante. Bhante, what I'm trying to see is when we are asking for forgiveness from Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, yes, we are increasing our wholesome qualities.
Yes.
We are adding something to the wholesome quality bucket.
Yes.
So what else is happening in these 4 buckets when we are doing these things?
Well, firstly, we are performing a wholesome deed when we ask for forgiveness from the Noble Triple Gem, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. When we are performing or committing a wholesome deed, firstly, our wholesome qualities will get stronger. And secondly, we are releasing positive energy into the environment, cleaning the environment, and earning merits. So 2 things mainly happen there. Thirdly, the last box that we have, which contains the sins. There are some sins, small sins that we have committed against Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Some of them could be eradicated. Most of the sins that we have committed against Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha are Arya Upavada. And it's very, very hard to eradicate them. Most of them cannot be eradicated. One has to suffer for them. That's why our Gautama Samma Sambuddha had to suffer for 6 years in the forest because he had insulted a Samma Sambuddha in the previous life 6 times. Verbally, he has insulted him. So that this is Samma Arya Upavadas, you can get forgiveness if that Arya person is still living. If you go to that person in person and ask for forgiveness, he will give you forgiveness. That way you can get rid of any Arya Upavada that you have committed in this life against that particular person. But most of the Arya Upavadas we may have committed in previous lives, and we may not have taken forgiveness then, and there's no way that we can take forgiveness now. So those things we don't know, but we just ask for forgiveness in general. There might be little Arya Upavadas, little wrong things that we have done against against Buddha Dhamma Sangha. We might be able to get rid of it. We don't know how much, right? But mostly Arya Upavadas cannot be eradicated. We will have to suffer for it. Then that's one of the 2 things that we cannot eradicate. The first one is the Anantariya Papa Karma, the 5 big ones. Shedding the blood of Buddha, killing Arahat, and killing mother, killing father, and the Sangha Beda. Those 5. Now, in our case, we can be certain that we haven't committed any of those Anantariya Papa Karmas, any of the 5 big ones. If we have, then we cannot be in the human world when there's no Samma Sambuddha living, right? If you commit an Anantariya Papa Karma, that's what happened to Venerable Moggallana when he was a layperson. He committed an Anantariya Papa Karma, ended up killing the parents. For the next life, he went to the hell itself, and he was there until the next Samma Sambuddha, our Gautama Samma Sambuddha, appeared on this earth. The same thing is going to happen to Devadatta. He, committed Anantariya Papa Karma by shedding the blood of Lord Buddha. He went to hell, and he will not be able to come to the human world again until the next Samma Sambuddha appears. So in our case, we have got a human life. There's no Samma Sambuddha. So that's a guarantee that we haven't committed those one of the 5 big ones. And that's a great relief. Then Arya Upavada we may have committed that we cannot get rid of, but we ask for forgiveness anyway. And some of the small ones we might be able to get rid of. But by and large, Arya Upavada, we can only eradicate by going to that Arya person and ask for forgiveness in person. Otherwise, we cannot eradicate that. We will have to suffer for it. All the other sins that we have committed can be eradicated by asking for forgiveness, transferring merits, and wishing them Nibbana, right? So that's the idea of doing it. Lord Buddha has said 90% of most people's sins that we have in that box 4, we can eradicate. So that's the reason why we ask for forgiveness. But doing it for a few days and forgetting about it is no good. We have to do it continuously every day. I do it at least 5 times a day. Sometimes I do it 10 times a day. And we have to keep on doing that because we don't know how many wrong things we have done to how many people in our previous lives. That's why Angulimala did it for 18 hours a day and managed to eradicate all that within 3 months, right? Does that answer your question, Pankaj? You're asking good questions, very good. It's useful to others as well. And so does that answer your question? Are you satisfied?
Yes, Bhante. Thank you very much, Bhante.
So if you're not satisfied, ask me more, question me more. I'm more than happy to explain until you are convinced, until you are satisfied with the answer. Because you have to be convinced, you see, if you are going to walk this path and complete it and become Sotapanna, you have to comprehend these Dhamma points correctly, 100%, to be able to practice them. Unless and until you are convinced, your mind is convinced, you will never be able to practice them and get results out of it.
Bhanteji, Naksen again.
Yes,
May I
Naksen.
ask a question which is
Yes.
similar to Hardika's question?
Yes.
You explained about the chetna and the intention.
Yes.
Sometimes my intentions are good, which is coming out of Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha. But the impact of that that might be unwholesome or maybe dangerous. So will it go in the box number 4? Or
Give me an example. Last time also you asked a similar question. Good. It makes me think as well. Give me an example.
Yeah, Bhanteji, I will try. Suppose in a winter, there is a lot of cold. And
Yes.
because of this cold, many poor animals are suffering because of cold. And in order to feel them warm, I just lighten a bonfire. And this particular fire is near to the dry grass. And if that dry grass, because of that fire, got burned, and the entire farm of the farmer got burned, and that farmer has said that I have ignited that fire, so I did a scene for him.
Unfortunately, my dear sir, you have taken that action. You think your intention is good, but your thought you have constructed with moha. You haven't thought it through, you see. You are thinking of only one part of it. You are setting up a fire, thinking that you will be able to help some animals, but you haven't thought it far enough to see what the consequences could be. The consequences were you set fire to the entire farm, you would have killed billions of animals, living beings, living in those plants, you see, living in this farm. So you have done that. You have constructed your thought with moha, you see, without thinking it through. So unfortunately, there you have earned a sin. Farmer was right. I don't know whether farmer understood them or not. What you did was, you haven't thought it through properly.
But the intention related to that was.
So you see, this is where the intention is not the thing. Chetana means not the intention. You had a good intention, yes, but you have constructed your thought with moha. Intention doesn't matter. You see, intention doesn't matter. What is important is whether you have constructed your thought with raga, dvesha, moha, or maitri, karuna, mudita, upekka, right? So you haven't thought it through properly. You have constructed the thought with moha. You didn't think what will happen if the fire gets out of control, did you?
Right. Yeah.
You are lucky that the farmer didn't sue you.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Bhante.
Any other questions, anyone? We still got another, about 10 minutes, 12 minutes?
Vandame Bhante.
Yes, sir. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya Bhante. My question is that I am practicing the love and kind meditation for
yes.
half an hour, but you told Pankaj sir that we have to do forgiveness first before doing the love and
First
kind
you start with asking forgiveness from Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Then you move on to all the living beings. First you ask them forgiveness, translate them merits, and wish them Nibbana. Then the rest of the hour you practice loving kindness meditation.
Okay. So first we have to say the Gatha.
Yes, first you have to, ask for forgiveness from Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. You start with that, then you ask for forgiveness from the living being living on the 31 place. Then you move on practicing loving kindness meditation.
but Bhante,
In fact, when you do the, the first two also, when you ask for forgiveness, when you transfer merits and you wish well, they are also, you are practicing loving kindness meditation, you see.
okay. Okay, thank you, Bhante.
In fact, that whole hour, you are practicing loving kindness meditation. Loving kindness meditation is so powerful. That's why out of the 4 meditation techniques, the Chaturaraka, Chatu means 4, that Lord Buddha has explained in detail in the Satipatthana Sutra. In that, Lord Buddha has explained in Satipatthana Sutra, out of the 4, it's only Metta-nusati, the loving kindness meditation, for which Lord Buddha devoted an entire sutra called Metta Sutra, right? You all know Metta Sutra.
Yes.
In Sri Lanka, we call it Karaniya Metta Sutra, but in India, you call it Metta Sutra. And, in Metta Sutra, it explains the power of loving kindness meditation. It explains that if you practice loving kindness meditation correctly, the way Lord Buddha has explained, and you can become either Anagami or Arahat, all the way. You see? So that's why loving kindness meditation is so important and so powerful. Out of the 4 Chaturaraka, the most powerful one is loving kindness meditation. That's why Lord Buddha has devoted the one complete sutra to that and not for the other 3.
Bhante, I'm just that first we have to say the Gatha. What we do in first thing when we start you start the session. And after
well,
that,
here actually it's not necessary, I'm just doing the Panchasila as a tradition. In fact, Lord Buddha has never preached Panchasila. Lord Buddha's teaching is Kotyak Sangvara Sila. Kotyak means unlimited number of disciplines, out of which the 5 big ones are the Panchasila, right? Out of that, all the disciplines that he has mentioned, the 5 big ones are the Panchasila, and every religion has that. If you take the 6 major religions in the world, they all have copied the Panchasila in one way or the other, So just as a tradition, because people do just to, keep up with the tradition, I observe Panchasila, but it's not really necessary.
Yeah, Bhante, when I'm doing it, I'm feeling relaxed from
Yes.
couple of days when we start this season, second season. So I was doing, before that I was getting many thoughts, unwanted thoughts in my mind, but
Yes.
now I'm pretty clear regarding it, and it is happening to me.
Very good, very good. You are making progress. You see, if you do correctly, you will get results.
Okay. And one thing, that how to get from 30, you said first we have to take the love and kind meditation. Before that, we have to forgive ourselves from the 30 realms. So in that,
No, firstly, we ask for forgiveness from Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, right? That is also a form of loving kindness meditation. Then we ask for forgiveness from the living beings living on the 31 planes. Then we transfer merits to them and we wish them Nibbana. That is also a form of loving kindness meditation, right?
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Then we practice loving kindness meditation by, repeating in our mind the karmasthana meditation sentences that we practice before we start the Dhamma discussion, right? So in that 1 hour, we are practicing loving kindness meditation using 3 different ways. At the end of the day, that hour is dedicated to practicing loving kindness meditation.
So I have to do it for the first 2 hours of the day.
First 1 hour you do that, right?
Okay.
Then you are more calm, your mind is more concentrated. Then it's easier for you to concentrate on listening to Dhamma for half an hour. Then it's easier for you to concentrate on analyzing Dhamma, yoniso manasikara, and try and comprehend that.
Okay.
So that's why I think that it's important to do it continuously for 2 hours for lay people. And if it is monks and nuns, you know, if they have nothing else to do, they should do it all day.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Bhante. And one question apart from it, whenever I am not doing anything, in my free time, I used to get thoughts regarding anything regarding, like someone is speaking to me in that sense. So what it is?
Yeah,
What
you see, those raga, dvesha, moha thoughts keep coming to you as a result of the bad karma that you have committed in previous lives. Those are the bad results that are coming to you as a result of bad karma, right?
Okay.
That's why it is important to eradicate bad karma, which we are going to learn next week how to do it.
Okay, 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 Bhante. Thank you for the information.
See, all the unwholesome thoughts that come to our mind is as a result of the bad karma that we have committed in previous lives and this life.
Because it is in human voice, Bhante, where whenever I am, my mind is free, those human voices come inside my head. So now when I'm practicing the love and kind meditation, it has been reduced to some extent.
Very good, very good. Eventually it will go away altogether. You keep practicing it. And also, so the idea is, you know, initially you start with 2 hours. But the idea is eventually you should be able to control your mind. You should be the master of your mind 24/7, right? You should be able to eradicate unwholesome thoughts coming to your mind and maintain a wholesome thought all the time. But it's easily said than done. Only an Arahat person can do that 24/7. But we have to gradually try and get there if you want to be Arahat.
Yes, correct.
May I ask another question?
Yes, yes. We got another 4 minutes.
Okay.
You can ask. Yes.
Okay. So, you know, like our mind is always thinking, right? There's always some form of thought going through our head.
Yes.
So when we become obviously trying to be aware of our thought all the time,
yes,
it's a good idea because then we can change that to a wholesome thought.
yes.
But is it a good idea to just say, you know, when we're doing our day-to-day activities like cleaning or cooking, whatever,
Yes.
just say, you know, send loving kindness all the time.
Very good if you can do that.
So yeah, okay, good. So then the whole time you just send loving kindness instead of listening to music or, you know, to bring the focus back to what you're doing and being aware of your thoughts. Just send loving kindness all the time.
Yes. Yeah, you see that there are 2 things that you can do there while you are doing your household chores. You can either practice loving kindness meditation or listen to Dhamma sermons. You see?
Yes.
There are also, when you are listening to Dhamma sermons, you'll be able to maintain wholesome thoughts in your mind.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. Maintaining wholesome thoughts all the time and not allowing unwholesome thoughts to come in. That's all that you have to do. But it's easily said than done.
Yeah. When I listen, I find when I listen to the Dhamma sermons,
yes,
I stop working and I sit down to start listening. So I have to, so I've changed it now. So yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, we got another 8 minutes left. The last 5 minutes I'm keeping for transferring of merits and offering blessings. So you have time for one more question.
Bhante, just one basic question.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
You said Lord Buddha categorized people into 3 categories for
4 categories.
Okay.
Utkatitanna, Vipatitanna, Neyya, Padaparama. You see, he categorized people who have enough merits to receive Kalyana Mitra Sevana and Siddhi Saddharma Sravana, right? Those people who are listening, who are practicing Kalyana Mitra Sevana and Sri Saddharma Sravana, those people, he have categorized them into 4 categories.
Okay. And what are the characteristics of these people?
The categories are Utkatitanna, Vipatitanna, Neya, Padaparama. Utkatitanna people have the highest level of wisdom, because they have the highest amount of accumulation of wholesome qualities and merits, right? So their wholesome qualities are so powerful, their wisdom is so powerful, they will comprehend the Dhamma very quickly within 7 days. The examples that you can find in the Tripitaka are Sopaka Sunita, then Sariputta Moggallana. There are few people like that who comprehended Dhamma within 1 hour and became Sotapanna. Then the second category is up to 7 weeks. Then the third category is up to 7 months. And the fourth category is up to 7 years. So those who have enough merits and wholesome qualities to be able to receive Kalyana Mitra Sevana and Sadharma Shravana, the first two. And those people, all of them, if they practice the path correctly, all of them will become Sotapanna. In fact, about 90% of them will become Sotapanna within 7 months. The remaining 10%, roughly speaking, will become Sotapanna within 7 years.
And does keeping Uposat or rainy retreat also help?
Beg your pardon?
The Uposat?
What do you mean by Uposat?
Basically, the not eating food post lunch.
Well, you see, those are Silabhata Paramasa. Lord Buddha hasn't, advised anyone not to eat. See, those are Silabhata Paramasa. What Lord Buddha has said is the Noble Eightfold Path, right?
Okay.
Noble Eightfold Path does not say eat at this time or don't eat at this time. Nothing like that. It all says Raga Dvesha Moha, right? Before you do something, just check, in your mind whether this involves Raga Dvesha Moha.
Like the monks in India, for example, don't eat after lunch.
Well, that's their problem, isn't it?
Okay.
That's Silabhata Paramasa.
Okay.
People should eat when they are hungry, otherwise they will fall sick.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
These days, I have my breakfast after 12 and my lunch around 6 o'clock. Or sometimes I don't have lunch because if I don't feel hungry,
right,
I have some fruits about 8 o'clock. I only eat when I am hungry. Otherwise, it will make me sick.
Okay.
I think time is up now. We got 3 minutes left. Are there any other questions? I can give extra time if there are any questions today. Any other questions? Okay, it seems that there are no more questions, and it's getting late in India, and USA and UK are okay. I think more people have joined from USA, but there are some people from India also. Right, so we'll transfer merits and offer blessings and complete today's work. So today, by conducting these Dhamma sermons and Dhamma discussions, we have completed 10 meritorious deeds. That's Dana Sila Bhavana, transferring of merits, receiving of merits, discussing Dhamma and teaching Dhamma, and then paying our homage to Noble Triple Gem Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, respecting the adults by transferring merits, and also practices Sammaditthi to a certain extent. So by completing, these are the 10 meritorious deeds that we have completed during these 3 hours. In addition to that, there could be many other meritorious deeds we may have completed without our knowledge. So all these meritorious deeds bring us merits. So all the merits that we have accumulated today, as well as throughout our samsara, let's first transfer them to our relatives who have passed away, our dead relatives. Firstly, I take this opportunity to think of Bodhisattva Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who is like a second Buddha to Indian Buddhists. And because of him, we are all here today. So let's think of Bodhisattva Dr. B.R. Ambedkar first. and then his relatives who have passed away, and also our relatives, especially those who became parents to us. There could be billions and trillions of parents that we had in previous lives who are still living on these 31 planes. Let's think of them, and also we have those who became relations to us, friends, enemies. Let's think of all of them, all those people who have passed away. Let's think of them and transfer merits to all of them. May they all receive these merits. And with the power of these merits, may they all be happy, be healthy, be free from worries, free from suffering, comprehend the Four Noble Truths, and finally attain permanent happiness in Nibbana. In order to make those wishes, I'm going to recite this Gatha. And if you know the Gatha, you can recite it with me. Otherwise, you can say sadhu 3 times at the end of it. Idamme jnatinang hotu sukhita hontu natayo. Idamme jnatinang hotu sukhita hontu natayo. Idamme jnatinang hotu sukhita hontu natayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Next, we are going to transfer merits to all the living beings living on the 31 planes. That's 20 Brahmaloka, 6 Divyaloka, Manushaloka, and the 4 hells. May all those living beings receive these merits. With the power of these merits, may they all be happy, be healthy, be free from worries, free from suffering, comprehend the 4 Noble Truths, and finally attain permanent happiness in Nibbana according to their wishes. In order to make those wishes, I'm going to recite this Gatha. And if you know the Gatha, you can recite it with me. Otherwise, you can say sadhu 3 times at the end of it. Ettavatache ammehi sambadam punya sampadam sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatache ammehi sambadam punya sampadam sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Excuse me. Ettavatache ammehi sambadam punya sampadam sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatache ammehi sambadam punya sampadam sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Next, with the power of all the merits that we have accumulated throughout our samsara, may all of us and all our family members, with the power of these merits, may all of us be able to eradicate our raga, dvesha, moha, completely comprehend the 4 Noble Truths, and finally attain permanent happiness in Nibbana. In order to make those wishes, I'm going to recite these gathas. If you know the gathas, you can recite them with me. Otherwise, you can say sadhu 3 times at the end of it. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satan samagamo hoto yava nibbana patya. Idamme punya kamman asavakkaya vahan hotu sabba dukkha pamuchyatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, in order to ask for forgiveness from the Noble Triple Gem Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, I'm going to recite this Gatha. If you know the Gatha, you can, excuse me, you can recite it with me. Otherwise, you can say sadhu 3 times at the end of it. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achyang kamame bhante buri panya tathagata. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achyang kamame dhamma samdittika kalika. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achyang kamame sangha supatipanna anuttara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'm going to give you the blessings of the Mahasangha. Abhivadana Silisa Nichang Vadda Pachaino Chattaro Dhamma Vadanti Ayuvanno Sukambalang Ayurarogya Sampatti Sangha Sampatti Mevacha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Samichatu Bhavatu Sabba Mangalang Rakantu Sabba Devata Sabba Buddhanubhavena Sabba Dhammanubhavena Sabba Sanganubhavena, Sada Sutti Bhavantute. May all of you be healthy, be happy, be free from worries, free from suffering, comprehend the Four Noble Truths, and finally attain permanent happiness in Nibbana according to your wishes. May the Noble Triple Gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha bless you all. Namo Buddhaya, Jai Bhim, Jai Bharat, Jai Sri Lanka. Thank you very much and see you again next week.